episode 389. We'll be recapping tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite, which featured 2 returns and also the new episode of AEW All Access, right here, right now, 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Welcome, Wrestling Fanatics. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I am Lance Brock. It's Wednesday night, and you know what that means. It is time to talk about an all-new episode of AEW Dynamite on TBS and AEW All Access episode number 3. And let's waste no more time. Without any further ado, let's get into it. Tonight's episode of All Elite Wrestling Dynamite was live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. At the University of Wisconsin, the commentators tonight: Tony Schiavone, Excalibur, and Taz. And we kick things off with one heck of a match. Darby Allin taking on Swerve Strickland. And as we found out last week, the Mogul affiliates have merged with Prince Nana and the Embassy to form the Mogul Embassy. Swerve Strickland makes his way to the ring. Prince Nana and Brian Cage come out with him, but only on the stage, and then they exit. So the match starts off 1-on-1, but Brian Cage and Prince Nana make their way back out, get involved, and they are ejected from ringside. These two have a very good match to start off Dynamite tonight, and it is Darby Allin getting the win over Swerve. And after the match, but actually during the match, we see Sammy Guevara with Ty Mello and Jungle Boy Jack Perry watching in the back, which is what they've been doing as of late with these 3 setting up to be challengers, for MJF. So we have seen them in the back in recent weeks watching the others' matches. And MJF cuts another heel promo on Darby, calls Sting his daddy, and Darby says Sting is not his dad, but his best friend in this company. And then we actually see Sting and said he's tired of MJF saying the daddy thing, and then he says he's not a daddy, but he's a cheerleader, and he pulls out some pom-poms and throws them at MJF, and this actually gets a pom-pom chant from the Milwaukee crowd. And Sting talks about how MJF had a supporter in the early days of AEW, and at this time he actually mentions Cody, and just like Sting supports Darby Allin, and he talked about how Ric Flair put him on the map, and he talked about being the Surfer Sting, then into the Crow Sting, the Wolfpack Sting. He shouts out Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, and then he says there's still a little bit of the Joker Sting in him. And great promo from Sting here. I thought, he said it's almost, showtime is almost over for him, but it is showtime for Darby Allin. And MJF tries to attack Darby, but Darby counters that. So, very good in-ring segment here. It's not officially announced just yet for Double or Nothing, but it definitely looks like we are going to get the 4-way main event for the AEW World Championship. MJF defending against Darby, Sammy, and Jungle Boy, which I'm sure those four could have a great main event for that world title. Next up on Dynamite, the AEW TNT Championship is on the line. Powerhouse Hobbs taking on, I believe in his hometown, wrestling's last real man, Silas Young. But this one, very short match. Powerhouse Hobbs defeating Silas Young to retain. And then in the parking lot, we see the new car that was given to Powerhouse Hobbs by QT Marshall, being a part of QTV. And we see Wardlow destroys it with one of those velvet-like rope stands like they have, kind of breaks the window with it, and then gets a forklift, flips it over, and then Wardlow makes his way into the arena and takes out the QTV crew, and Powerhouse Hobbs is able to escape, but Aaron Solo is not so lucky. Wardlow power bombs him off the stage through a couple tables. Actually, I only think one broke. But Aaron Solo taken out. And next up, we get a video package from Jay White and Juice Robinson. And they announced that they are now known as Bullet Club Gold. There was a lot of talk recently about Jay White being a free agent, not sure where he's going to go. There was some talk at one time about him maybe ending up in WWE, but with everything with the sale, supposedly a freeze on hiring new talent. But as we saw last week, Jay White is all elite. And now him and Juice Robinson, Bullet Club Gold. Dynamite continues with a match for the AEW International Championship, honoring the House of Black, Buddy Matthews taking on freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. I just want to say I really enjoyed this match, and I say this for a lot of Orange Cassidy matches when he is in there against somebody that is pretty much a completely different style than him. Whether if it's a bigger guy or a guy that has a completely different style, which, well, just about everybody has a different style than Orange Cassidy, but when he's put in there with guys that you think that you're not really sure how a match with them and Orange Cassidy would work, they end up having a very good match, and tonight was no different. Matthews and Cassidy, I thought, had a very good match here. Good storytelling in this match with the hand injury to Orange Cassidy. At one time, Orange Cassidy made the mistake of going for the orange punch with the bad hand, and Doc Sampson came to the ring to check on him a little bit, and then Buddy Matthews attacked him and started working on the hand. And that's pretty much was the story throughout this match, was the hand injury due to Orange Cassidy, Buddy Matthews working over it. And Orange Cassidy pulls out the victory, though, with the mousetrap pin, and the commentators, Tony, Excalibur, and Taz, did a great job of explaining how that Orange Cassidy usually only goes for that mousetrap pin when he is in kind of like a desperate situation where it looks like he's in a lot of trouble, and he pulls out the win last minute. And they also explain that is what he used to defeat Chris Jericho. So definitely great match, in my opinion. If you did not see it, it's definitely worth checking out. Next up, we see another quick video package. Christian Cage and Luchasaurus, who returned last week. And Christian says some things have changed, and that's it. So not really a whole lot from Christian Cage and Luchasaurus. But it is definitely interesting to see what's next for these two, who they are going to feud with now that Jungle Boy is in the AEW World Title picture. Definitely we'll have to wait and see what is next for Christian and the big man. Up next, we have All Ego Ethan Page. And then Matt Hardy and Isaiah Cassidy come out and say Page did not read the fine print in the contract that said if he did not beat Hook, they would be out of their deal. And then they challenge Ethan Page to a match where if they win, they'll be no longer contract, no deal with the firm. But if they lose, then they will be under a contract again. And then at this time, Matt Hardy and Isaiah Cassidy are attacked from behind by Big Bill and Lee Moriarty. And it's a 3-on-2 attack in the ring. And at this time now on Dynamite, we see the return to AEW of Jeff Hardy. Comes out with a custom Jeff Hardy chair, making the save for his brother and Isaiah Cassidy, So I'm sure this match that Matt Hardy challenged the firm to will probably be a 6-man tag. The Hardys and Isaiah Cassidy taking on The Firm, Ethan Page, Big Bill, and Lee Moriarty. I don't know if it's going to be on an episode of Dynamite or Rampage, or if they're going to hold this off till Double or Nothing. If I had to take a guess, I'd say they might have it before the pay-per-view, but we'll just have to wait and see. Trios match up next. The tag team match up next. Blackpool Combat Club, Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli taking on Brandon Cutler and Michael Nakazawa. And unfortunately for the Elite, Nakazawa and Brandon Cutler are destroyed by the BCC. Brandon Cutler busted wide open. Then they ask where Kenny Omega is. They ask where the Young Bucks are. And then at this time, I have to mention though, I didn't mention this. I should put in my notes because I forget things. Bad memory due to old age. But we did hear from Kenny Omega earlier in the night. Said he wasn't there. Talked about what he was going to do to the BCC for what they did to Don Callis, someone who is like family to him. But at this time, though, we see Kenny Omega actually is there in Milwaukee. He distracts the BCC, and then we see from making their way from the crowd, the Young Bucks in the ring, and they clear the house except for Jon Moxley. Kenny Omega gets one of the equipment cases from under the ring. Looks like he's gonna hit Moxley with it. But then the Young Bucks stop him and hand him a screwdriver. Just like Moxley used on Hangman Adam Page, Kenny Omega has the screwdriver in his hand, goes after Moxley with it in the corner, and at that time Claudio and Wheeler Yuta pull Jon Moxley out of the ring to safety, and Omega stabs the screwdriver into the top turnbuckle pad as the BCC escape through the crowd. So things are heating up in the feud between the Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite. I'm enjoying this rivalry so far. Women's tag team action is next on Dynamite. Riho and Sky Blue, who last week it was announced she is now All Elite, signing with AEW. They are taking on the Outcasts. Ruby Soho and Toni Storm have a pretty good match here. Toni Storm pins Sky Blue, and they go for the usual attack with the three of them, but then the AEW Women's Champion Jamie Hayter runs down to make the save, and they get the best of her too though, and then she is saved by Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and they escape and exit as Baker and Hayter clear the ring. Next is our main event of Dynamite this week. The Ocho, Chris Jericho, taking on Limitless Keith Lee. Jericho has Jericho Appreciation Society member Daniel Garcia in his corner. These two, Lee and Jericho, I think have a really good match. Garcia gets involved, and while referee Paul Turner is distracted by Daniel Garcia, Swerve Strickland makes his way through the crowd, attacks Keith Lee. He hits him with something. I'm not quite sure what it was he hit him with, but knocking out Keith Lee, Jericho is able to get the win, defeating Keith Lee. Of course, Swerve and Keith Lee, former partners here in AEW. Looks like they could start that feud back up again. And then after, we hear it's all about the boom. Adam Cole, baby. He makes his way down, helps Keith Lee up the ramp a little bit, and kind of like Jericho, how he came out when Adam Cole was celebrating his victory and didn't really do much, just stayed at ringside. So I'm guessing maybe Double or Nothing, we could see the match, Chris Jericho versus Adam Cole, which in my opinion, if that match does happen, that could possibly steal the show. And that was tonight's new AEW Dynamite. Very good show this week, I thought. A lot of good matches on this show, as always, on Dynamite each week. And right after Dynamite was this week's episode of AEW All Access, which featured this week was Sammy Guevara again, the Young Bucks, when they returned with Kenny Omega at Full Gear to face the Death Triangle for the AEW Trios Championships. And Dr. Britt Baker going into her match at Full Gear against Saraya and being upset about Thunder Rosa being out and Toni Storm being the interim AEW Women's Champion. So this week, and I thought another good episode of All Access. What I understand, there are 6 episodes that have been picked up. So as of right now, we're halfway through. And I definitely hope that it gets picked up. But like I talked about this morning on GMWF, let me know in the comments section what you think about All Access so far. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Are you in the middle? Let me know what you think here in the comments section on Spreaker or wherever you are listening to this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. And that's it for this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Thank you everyone for listening right here on Spreaker or pretty much anywhere you can listen to podcasts at. Hope to have more episodes of 360 Wrestling Fanatic coming at you soon. But one thing is for sure, we'll be back tomorrow morning for another episode of GMWF. So it's the off Thursday episode, so not quite sure what time tomorrow morning it will be, but stay tuned so you will be able to listen right when it becomes available. Hope everyone had a great Wednesday. Hope everyone has a great night. Hope everyone enjoyed AEW Dynamite tonight. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning for GMWF. Until then, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.